1. Mysterious mail package. Ian Bai is a famous top student at the University of Wisconsin, and he is also an Asian school sweetheart who attracts foreign girls, but all this became the past 42 days ago. Ian Bai has not been a peaceful child since he was a child. Even in his own villa, he would play hide-and-seek games with the servants. None of the pretty maids were his match, but everyone fell in love with the young master at first sight. Beauty is an innate wealth given to mankind by God. Even if others are jealous, it is something that cannot be taken away. But Inbai's wealth is not limited to this. At the age of 3, Inbai could solve the 9 links freely. At the age of 5, Inbai wrote an argumentative essay titled, If People Can Resurrect After Death, which was published on the headlines of the daily newspapers at the time. At the age of 7, he had passed IELTS and TOEFL, and at the age of 15, he was admitted to the University of Wisconsin. Although Inbai is so smart, he has chosen a major that seems extremely stupid in the eyes of others, and that is genetics. Even though this major is very popular in this prestigious school, as a biology major with a worrying future, even his parents feel that this is a waste of his talent. If you can't find a job, then come back and inherit the family business. After Inbai's father left this sentence to him, he never wrote him any letters or contacted him. Inbai's life abroad can be said to be extremely lonely, but this is only what others see. Inbai's rebellious nature tells him that he believes that he can do nothing wrong. After all, for a rich young man like Inbai who has no worries about food and clothing, the most valuable thing in the world is definitely not money or women. However, after graduation, Inbai still felt a little melancholy in his heart. Even in foreign countries with high-end technology, there are not many promising paths for this major. He was sitting on the sofa in front of the balcony of his rented apartment, holding a glass of Bordeaux wine and drinking it sullenly. There was a bustling scene outside the window, but he knew that it had nothing to do with him. Father, if you see me like this, you will definitely laugh at me. Inbai suddenly drank all the red wine in the glass and bumped the glass on the table with great force. He is a man who loves glass products. Glass is fragile and makes people want to take care of it, he said. Sure enough, he felt a little regretful and felt that, even if his talent was not appreciated, he should not embarrass a glass cup. He kissed the rim of the glass and gently placed it back on the goblet stand. Although there was a million reluctances in his heart, Inbai felt that maybe he should be like the thousands of Asian immigrants who came here to get green cards and find a part-time job in a restaurant or some other place. But he doesn't know anything else and can only do various gem crafts. Inbai's carving skills were completely inherited from his father, while his outstanding design concepts were inherited from his mother. His family, the Ian family, only customizes special jewelry for high-profile foreign royal families, which is unique in the world. But because I was not a jewelry major at all, I had to find a Chinese restaurant to design and carve the dishes. Haha, he laughed a little at himself. I thought there was no need to look for diplomas abroad, but I didn't expect it to be the same. The restaurant is called The Beauty. Although the name is tacky, it is extremely popular abroad. Just like there are a large number of people queuing up to eat at Pizza Hut every day, even if the food is not delicious at all and is extremely expensive. Ian Bai is a nugget of gold, and his brilliance cannot be concealed in the smell of spices. The beautiful restaurant began to attract a large number of repeat customers who requested the Chinese dishes made with Ian Bai's carving craftsmanship. All the chefs began to look at Ian Bai with admiration, except their head chef Shang Luoluo. Mr. Ian, I'm so happy to see you so popular. Shang Luoluo said without looking back while making his Iron Lion head. Thanks, Shang. Ian Bai didn't say much, but for Shang Luoluo, this is a kind of disdain. Shang Luoluo is not actually Chinese. He is from South Korea, and listening to other chefs talking about his origin, it seems that he was born in a relatively poor family. For him, Ian Bai was too perfect, from his family background to his wisdom to his appearance. He even felt that Ian Bai was luckier than him. Shang Luoluo particularly longed for Las Vegas. He only went there once last year with the shop owner to discuss business, but this time, he couldn't forget those bunny girls and billiard queens. Shang Lualua was not an ugly man, but he was too slender. His skin was white due to lack of nutrition, and he was not very good at putting on clothes. Once, when he was waiting for someone on the roadside and put his hat next to him, someone actually threw a coin into it. This was an experience that could never be erased for him. At this time, listening to Ian Bai's answer and recalling his own life, he couldn't help but feel angry. Mr. Ian, I know you look down on me, but your attitude really makes me very angry, he said and walked towards Ian Bai. Ian Bai also looked at him puzzled, but he only saw the slow jealousy reflected in his brown, smoky crystal eyes. I decided to report your arrogant attitude to the boss. I think it is not conducive to our cooperation. Ian Bai was always depressed. When he heard such a mediocre chef talking to him like this, the young master's plan suddenly appeared. Shang, I think you are completely jealous of me. I understand. Almost no one ordered your creative dishes after I came here, but this only means that I am great, and you are not. As he said, he poked Shang Luoluo's chest with his finger. Shang Luoluo, who was already shorter than Ian Bai, seemed to be even shorter due to this force. In Shang Luoluo's country, it is basic etiquette for younger generations to respect their elders. This arrogant Chinese was so disrespectful that he was so angry that he grabbed Ian Bai's collar and roared, "Don't go too far. No matter how talented you are, you can't do anything in front of a superior who suppresses you. Nothing can be done." This is what Ian Bai least wants to hear at the moment. He didn't understand why this thin chef, who seemed to be able to be picked up by one hand, was so jealous of him, but he knew that his restless heart was completely irritated. I thought that, after all, I was a top student in a prestigious university. I had grown up surrounded by admiration for my excellent gemstone craftsmanship and my excellent professional knowledge. But now I only serve these fruits and vegetables in a Chinese restaurant. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I actually picked up Shang Luoluo with all my strength. Let me down, Shang Luoluo said in a trembling tone. Ian Bai actually didn't want to cause trouble before he had the financial ability. His ambition has yet to be realized. His nose twitched angrily, and he threw the stick figure to the ground. Shang Luoluo straightened his collar and walked angrily to the store manager's office. TCH, officials are in charge everywhere. Ian Bai felt that he might not be able to stay here before he earned the startup capital. He looked at the various glassware in the kitchen, feeling a little nostalgic in his heart. After all, it is something that has worked with me. In his hand, there is still an uncarved winter melon. Mr. Ian, come to my place for a moment. It's the boss's voice. Ian Bai murmured in his heart, but he forced himself to go. On the way, he saw Shang Luoluo with a wicked smile on his face. Boss, you are looking for me, Ian Bai said with lowered eyes. His tone was gentle, and he tried his best to hide his uneasiness, but he never lowered his head. Mr. Ian, you have done a good job during your time here, the boss said slowly. Although some colleagues seem to think that you are too aloof, I admire your talent very much. You know, it is difficult to produce high-quality dishes in this industry. I love talents. Ian Bai was a little confused. Then will you decide to keep me or promote me? You are very confident, the store manager smiled, took out a mail bag from the drawer, and placed it on the mahogany desk. Yes, I would like to promote you if you can continue to stay here. What? Ian Bai was even more confused. Wasn't it the boss who had the final say whether to stay or go? Take this. The boss pointed at the mail bag. Ian Bai picked it up and saw that it was an anonymous mail package. It was about the size of a shoebox, but it was quite substantial. The parcel was a little cold and was packed very tightly, with only the word Toyenbai written on it. This. A friend of mine asked me to forward it to you. He said that if you read it, you will definitely be willing to contact him and work there. The shop owner said, while lighting an expensive cigarette. This is a very good friend of mine, and I also love talents. I would like to see you have more room for development. So after you read this package, please give me a reply. Okay, I will grant you leave today and go back and take a look. This is a restaurant. Maybe not a good place to read personal emails. Inbai has worked in this restaurant for 3 months, but rarely communicates with the boss and has never even asked his name. Instead, he often sees Shang Luoluo always following the boss like an obedient retriever and knows nothing about the rest of his things, including the fact that the boss actually appreciates his talent. Inbai is a smart man, and he vaguely feels that things are a bit too coincidental, even weird. Could it be that the parcel just arrived in the hands of the boss when Shang Luoluo went to file a complaint? Shang Luoluo's words didn't make the boss angry at all, but instead gave me such a thing. Inbai looked at the heavy parcel in his hand and frowned. Just then Shang Luoluo came towards him. Shang Luoluo looked at Inbai proudly and walked in front of him. Two things in the parcel. Are you okay? Inbai still kept his frown. In fact, his mind was not on other things at the moment, but for Shang Luoluo, his expression had the same meaning. Humph, you still have the same attitude. Shang Luoluo's tone was obviously high-spirited, but probably today should be the last day for you to be so arrogant here. Maybe, maybe, kindness. Shang Luoluo was surprised by this brief conversation, and at the same time a little surprised, because compared to his previous arrogant attitude, Inbai's brevity this time was not so much that he maintained his usual arrogance, but that he was mysterious and mysterious. At this time, Shang Luoluo's eyes wandered to the mail package in Inbai's hand, and then he traced Inbai's gaze carefully and found that he was also staring at the mail package. What's inside? I don't know. Inbai finally raised his head and looked at Shang Luoluo. The look on his face was a combination of curiosity, jealousy, and anxiety. He couldn't help but secretly laugh at this kind of mentality of a small citizen. However, he didn't like to show off and said directly, "The boss gave it to me. After I read it, I said whether I should go or stay and wait for his reply." Then you won't open it yet? Shang Luoluo also wanted to see it. We'll see what the boss says when we get home. TCH, it doesn't matter. I hope you can make the decision to leave that place after seeing it. Shang Luoluo turned around and left pretending to be cool. But Inbai suddenly couldn't help it anymore and called out to him. Shang, do you think that restaurant is the place where you will develop your life? In fact, Inbai said this just because, with his worldview and values, he didn't understand Shang Luoluo's mentality of a villain who succeeds. But what he didn't expect was that this sentence was actually Shang Luoluo's weakness. You'd better wish for yourself. With a sharp reply, Shang Luoluo left without looking back at Inbai. But at this time, Inbai was not very interested in other things and concentrated on this mail package. Based on Shang Luoluo's performance just now, he concluded that the parcel had at least nothing to do with the chef who had been making things difficult for him. Inbai is usually silent, but his observation skills are very keen. He even took a mind-reading course in college. As long as he can catch the other person's eyes, he can roughly judge the other person's mentality. Although it is not as accurate as a lie detector, it is still close to 10. It's just that when Shang Luoluo made the last cold reply, he didn't pay attention to his eyes. It's useless to think too much. Inbai finally decided to open it after returning home, as the store owner said. Because he has no enemies in the city, there can't be a bomb here. Inbai's apartment is still some distance from the hotel where he worked before. The excellent education provided by his family made him always have the habit of enjoying afternoon tea. The place he went to most often was a tea restaurant called Irina. The aroma of the classic European black tea in that restaurant made him intoxicated. However, if it is just this, it is not enough to stop this rich young man who is above superior material. Hi, Serene. The voice came from a beautiful girl. Today is your day of work. Why do you have time to come to my place? Probably, it comes from missing you. Inbai leaned in front of the service desk and gently lifted the girl's chin with his long fingers. On the fingertips is a blooming morning star rose. Irina Cafe is probably a harbor where he can temporarily dock in this foreign country where he is wandering. You have something on your mind. She slowly pushed away Inbai's fingers, turned around and ground a cup of Blue Mountain coffee, staring at Inbai. Here, no sugar added. Thanks. Tell me about it. Inbai put the mail parcel on the table. The woman sniffed the parcel out of habit. The scent of grass, earth, flowers. What? Ianbai suddenly became interested. He knew her keen sense of smell. This beautiful woman is called Nami Maline, and Bordeaux is her hometown. Although Ianbai has not been in the United States for a long time, he knows her very well because Nami is a talkative person and, like Ianbai, has a prominent family background. You mean in the mail? If there's nothing wrong with my nose. Well, I believe you. Ianbai gently stroked a strand of blonde hair hanging from Nami's forehead and looked directly into her emerald eyes. If you had met me earlier, you wouldn't have had to give up everything for that damn marriage. Don't mention him again, Nami said briefly, changing the topic, and I know you are very interested in this thing, so you came to me. Well, I didn't think anyone else had the ability to get a rough idea of the items inside without opening the package. Nami did not directly reply to his words, and her attention was also focused on the package at this time. Weird. Nami looked at Ianbai, who looked expectant, and did not continue. However, she made a move to open the package. Ianbai quickly grabbed her hand and shook his head. I think the stuff inside might not be that dangerous, Nami said. Let me give it a try. But you mentioned the scent of flowers, which could be deadly. Maybe you should trust a PhD in biology. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Would you like to do something interesting, by the way? Ianbai's mouth showed a hint of a smirk. Haha, today's men are worse than the latest vibrators, Nami said while getting the black tea and cake prepared for Ianbai. I will only stay at your place for 2 hours tonight. I have other dates. Okay, can we have dinner together? Of course it's in my shop. At this point, Ianbai was really relieved. Nami's special sense of smell always helps him. As the daughter of a bartending family, she has treasures that bartenders dream of, just like Im Tien Tien's natural carving skills, which will always make some people envious. However, Nami seemed to be very busy recently, so Ianbai asked politely how to prepare dinner. He had a hard day on weekdays and was busy until about 9 o'clock in the evening, and it was Nami who prepared the carefully cooked dinner for her. In fact, Ianbai did not think of this relationship as a kind of love between men and women as he showed. In his opinion, it was a kind of sympathy between high-ranking family members who were wandering in a foreign land. Just as they planned, Nami followed Ianbai to his rented apartment. Okay, let's open it. Nami gently placed the mail package on the table with both hands, looking intently. Ianbai looked at everything in front of him and seemed a little intoxicated. Nami was indeed a beauty. Not only did she have bright golden hair, crimson lips, a pink rose-like complexion, but also bright blue eyes and a sexy figure. What made him unable to extricate himself was the dimples in her smile and the decisiveness in her gestures. She is his support in this strange city. Nami's fingers were very nimble, and she completely peeled off the outermost layer of the parcel. As expected, Nami handed the wrapping cloth to Ianbai. Maybe other people don't know this thing, but it's impossible for me not to know it. This is a special kind of artificial leather, which is carefully pressed with collagen components from various animal skins. It is far better than the plastic wrap in the supermarket in terms of maintaining the taste and freshness of the material. The most important thing is that it is light and thin, but can also be used to insulate and can simulate many harsh temperature-controlled environments. The inner walls of my precious grape-growing research shed are covered with this material. This kind of thing is not something that can be seen and made in ordinary places and factories. Nami finished speaking and continued to study the gift box. And Ianbai was even more confused. According to her, this thing cannot come from ordinary people. Although the shop owner is not a very poor person, the things that can be produced with this complex process are not only related to the wealth of the owner. Speaking of the store owner, Ianbai could actually tell at a glance that he was a high-caste Indian. Although he didn't know all his data, his appearance could not deceive others. Is it possible for the upper class in India to have such a thing? Don't be ridiculous, dear. Nami had already begun to open the lid of the mail package. India? Even in the upper class of Britain, very few people can afford this kind of thing. This is not a natural substance. It is not a luxury product, but a manufactured product. Manufactured products. Inbai was touched by this word, but he couldn't tell where the spark came from. Ah, it looks like it can be opened. Nami let out a long breath, and Inbai saw something like a ribbon in her hand. Something for sealing. Nami handed it to Inbai. It doesn't look like the tape we commonly use. It's not just that. Inbai said, this is sealing glue for laboratory use. It is a polymer material that is waterproof and dryproof. It relies on intermolecular attraction and molecular bonds to produce viscosity. Oh, so this is high tech? By the way, it's filled with grass and flowers. It seems like it's really suitable for your major. Inbai also seemed to understand something, and at the same time he knew where the touch just came from: manufactured products, collagen, sealing glue, and a slightly cooler temperature, which all showed that these things came from a very high-end laboratory. Combined with what the store owner left for him, he immediately understood something. Nami, I'll do the rest, and you can watch from the side. I think I'm more professional. After Inbai said that, Nami sat on the chair next to her and watched quietly. Inbai opened the box. Sure enough, you see, this is laboratory-specific insulation foam. It must be filled with ice for refrigeration. Nami listened quietly, and Inbai knew that he was holding his breath just like himself. He opened the box and found that it was liquid nitrogen. In the center of the liquid nitrogen was a metal tank. Nami, please, I have a pair of oven gloves in the drawer in my study. Nami knew nothing about scientific research, but she was full of curiosity. After all, she also grew grapes at home, which had something to do with scientific research. She was now trying her best to cooperate with Ian by getting gloves for him, and even forgot about the date. Stay away from these liquid drops, they will frostbite you. Inbai put on his gloves and quickly took out the jar. The jar was instantly filled with water vapor under the impact of room temperature and made a unique metal chirping sound. Will it explode? No. When it reaches room temperature, we can find out. About 15 minutes later, Inbai touched the body of the can and nodded to Nami. It seemed that it could finally be opened. However, the results were disappointing. Inside the jar was an insect, along with a letter. 3-letter. Although it was not difficult to explain the smells that Nami had smelled before, Inbai's heart suddenly plummeted for such an ordinary thing, just like those shopping receipts with the banner of everyone getting a prize, but in fact most of the prizes were rags and the like. Inbai suddenly felt that fate was playing tricks on people. Maybe this mail package was just a prank. Even if the shop owner is a high-caste Indian, he is probably just a pepper tycoon at best. Weren't they the ones who made a fortune by selling these spices to Europe? And what can this grasshopper bring? Not even carving can be performed on it. Sir Ian? Huh? Inbai came back to his senses. Oh, this is really an April Fool's Day joke, haha. Well, in our country, this kind of thing is indeed called a cricket. In China, it's called grasshopper, and most species have a common scientific name, locust. Inbai casually pushed the jar, a specimen jar to be precise, to Nami's side. That's not right, my dear. Nami pushed back casually. With Nami's intelligence, she had already carefully observed this bug before, or at least identified its scent, because the specimen jar did not use such high-end packaging materials. There's no way I could be wrong about the smell. It's not the smell of locusts. I know the difference. Inbai suddenly felt confused. Nami couldn't be wrong. He fully agreed with this. But equally, he couldn't be wrong. Biological identification is the most basic required course. Although he did not get marka every time in this course, he was the first student to complete the identification of 150 assessment samples in the field biometric assessment. These were all the physical signs of a locust, whether it was the head antennae, tentacles, tail whiskers on the abdomen, mouth parts, wings, limbs, valves. He had to pick up the specimen jar again and look carefully at this little creature that had no soul. He turned the jar around and looked at it over and over again from head to toe. Although this is against professional ethics, I think I must destroy this specimen jar. I need to take it out. Inbai seemed a little helpless, like a dejected attack. Even when facing the owner of the beautiful hotel who might want to fire him, he did not show such a dejected look. There is no worse way to frustrate a person than to strike at something he is good at. Although, I will probably destroy this work of artwork. Nami also felt that Inbai's sudden romantic words were a bit boring. Specimens are also an art, Inbai said eloquently. As large as blue whales, dinosaurs, mammoths as small as mosquitoes, flies, mites, fleas, and microorganisms, a specimen is evidence of their survival in this world and the universe, and has the right to continue to exist as an endless source of knowledge for future generations. The source of knowledge. Well, it seems that this jar can be opened, you see. Inbai was halfway through showing off his professionalism and suddenly changed the topic and pointed the bottle mouth to Nami. There are bite marks. It seems that this end of this seemingly integrated transparent jar can be unscrewed. As he spoke, Inbai slowly and carefully rotated one end of the jar, trying to keep it still. Just like he cared for the glass products at home, he looked directly at the grasshopper in the jar, paying attention to whether any limbs were broken or if any tissue fell off. All this continued until the sound of pung broke the curious silence. Nami's joy seemed to exceed that of Inbai. She cheered continuously in French and asked Inbai what this was from time to time. It's still a locust, Inbai said a little helplessly, looking at Nami's face that suddenly fell out of all joy. This is impossible, Sir Een. I am not wrong. Locusts have a special fermentation-like smell, which is related to the fact that they feed on grains. This thing obviously does not have this smell, although its floral fragrance is too strong in comparison. It's strong, but the smell composition is still close to that of crickets. Nami seemed a little angry. After finishing speaking, Inbai stopped talking about money. She sat down on the buffalo leather sofa, turned on the large rear projection color TV in Inbai's apartment, and started playing 360. Forget it, FF13 is more fun. Hey, look, my favorite silver-haired boy. My dear, you still have a date. Inbai was not very comfortable with Nami's behavior. This was obviously a woman's anger-discharging behavior, but under the premise that the woman did not agree to go to bed with him, this behavior was not cute at all. However, Inbai, who did not question Nami's ability in the first place, began to question his own ability, because one of the two correct answers must be wrong, which is only logical. Although he was unwilling to do so, he still opened the door of a room next to the study and walked in. This is a laboratory set up by Inbai himself, which has all the basic equipment for studying macro and microorganisms. Just use the latest electron microscope to study this thing, he said to himself. Although Inbai's laboratory is simple, it is equipped with the latest equipment in the field. Most of the wages he earned from working so hard at Gorgeous were used to pay for these equipment. Inbai is very independent. Although his mother always secretly supports him and sends him 100,000 US dollars every month, he is always reluctant to ask his mother for money. This microscope is equipped with the latest Zeiss lens and has excellent depth of field synthesis function. With fine focus adjustment, the objects under the electron microscope can appear in full view on the touchscreen computer connected to it. If you want to observe which part, you only need to push and pull the screen with your fingers on the corresponding part. Inbai actually couldn't defeat his self-esteem as an invincible expert at first, but when his vision moved to the wings, Inbai suddenly jumped up from the automatic swivel chair. Nami! He rushed out of the room and went straight to Nami, who was still crying while watching the touching cutscenes in the game. Stop being artistic, Nami. You are right. Who? Someone is artistic. Nami sobbed and impatiently shook off Inbai and held his hand. Inbai instantly felt that this woman was really hopeless. Okay, Nami, if you don't want to defend your signature status of smelling ability. After hearing this, Nami stood up and wiped away her tears. Tell me, what is it? Sure enough, as a child of a prominent family, the mentality of defending one's own specialties that one is proud of is the same. Follow me to the lab. This was not the first time for Nami to visit Inbai's laboratory, so she was not at all amazed by the high-tech equipment. Women never have the morbid love for tools that men do. However, the big locust on the display shocked her. This is the first time I have seen such a detailed illustration of an insect. Look at these pink and purple wings. This is it. Inbai enlarged the wings, and what was displayed in front of his eyes were the fine veins on the wings. Wing veins, Inbai continued, are like fingerprints in the insect world. This is the ultimate reliable basis for identifying insects and even surpasses DNA. DNA can be changed through hybridization or artificial mutation, but when it comes to specific external characteristics, it is the wing veins that can tell which species it is closest to. Stop being so pretentious. Tell me, is this a cricket? Obviously not. Look at this place. Inbai pointed to a position on the wings, where there is a cross similar to the word wam, one horizontal stripe and three small vertical stripes. This is a kind of fruit fly, but I don't know what genetic method is used to make it look like a locust. Rather than the species, I want to know how this thing is made. By the way, isn't there another letter? Nami suddenly shouted, then rushed out of the laboratory, took in the letter paper left on the table, and handed it to Inbai. Look at what's written. Inbai opened it. The letter paper was purple, scented with lavender, and had beautiful English italics. However, judging from the corners of the letters, it was written by a woman, Mr. Een. We have been paying attention to your performance at the University of Wisconsin. We are also sure that when you receive something like this, you will definitely be interested in us. This is just a small greeting. Looking forward to good news. There is no signature and no contact information left. Inbai seemed to feel like a basin of cold water was poured on him after he cracked the mystery of this mysterious species. And every word in it tugs at my heart. He finally understood what the hotel owner meant when he said he could stay here if possible. Thinking of this, Inbai couldn't help but smile bitterly, because from another perspective, if Shang Luoluo succeeded, he might never see himself in beauty again. However, I'm afraid, before Shang Luoluo can realize this dream, he has to have another encounter with himself. Okay, Nami, my baby, Inbai said, the science and education time is over. It's time for you to go on your date. Nami glanced at Inbai provocatively, seeming to smell jealousy in it, but as a woman, she would never dislike having too many men who love her. She looked at her gold pocket watch and said, It's true. I've been here with you for almost 2 hours. I'm going to start my own night of happiness. After saying that, Nami gave Inbai a wink, which really captivated all living beings. But it was a pity that this pretty girl left the residence of this romantic and wealthy young man with this seductive drug. Young people's nights are always manic. Inbai actually still has a subtle feeling for Nami, but that feeling is not an animalistic instinct. Nami didn't tell her fiancé in too much detail. Inbai only knew that he was also a rich young man, and he also had the romantic attributes of a rich young man, but he was just too romantic and contracted some serious sexually transmitted diseases. No woman can endure this, and even if she can, she is still a widow. Inbai actually thought it was funny at the time. What kind of sexually transmitted diseases could be so serious that he didn't even dare to name it? He also asked out of professional curiosity, but Nami never answered. 4. Meet Shang Luoluo by chance. Thinking about it, Inbai suddenly felt a little confused. He looked at the living room again and saw that the game played by Nami was still at the save point. He sat where Nami sat and seemed to be able to feel the residual warmth of her plump buttocks, and the fragrance of Nami's hair lingering on the back of the sofa made his heart a little anxious. He poured a glass of red wine and walked to his usual drinking spot to relax, as if he wanted to find some peace. After all, as a man, women in his eyes are very realistic. To put it bluntly, you have to have money. But at the same time, Inbai had a question in his mind. This place, no matter where he is or what he does, even if it can give me achievements and honors, what about money? Can he give me corresponding wealth? The benefits of the beautiful products are actually considerable. Not only are the number of repeat customers high, but they also often spend large sums of money. One of his winter melon carvings is worth tens of thousands of dollars more than those so-called famous calligraphy and paintings that have been hyped by various media. If Shang Luoluo hadn't seen so many tips for his dishes, he wouldn't have hated him to death. Although Ian Bai looked down upon Shang Lolua's petty bourgeois mentality, he did not deny that only money could support him and his future family. Money, women, villas, men's eternal issues. As the saying goes, the person who untied the bell must tie the bell. I'm afraid I have to ask the store owner for the specific location of the content mentioned in this email. Ian Bai is not a chronic person. He quickly packed up his drinking utensils, put on his coat, and rushed to the beautiful place like lightning. It's 8:30 now, and there's still an hour and a half before closing time. Ian Bai hurriedly rushed into the door, but he bumped into something, followed by a tinkling sound. Phone. Ian Bai could easily tell that this was a Korean word for complaining. He knew who this person was without looking carefully at his face. Ian, aren't you fired? Shang Luolua's ability to switch between Korean and English is faster than a BBK reading machine. Ian Bai didn't intend to pay attention to him. He adjusted the stand-up collar of his windbreaker that was knocked crooked by Shang Luoluo. He rubbed his shoulder and passed by him. However, a bony hand immediately grabbed the streamer behind the windbreaker. Hey, Ian, is this what you should do after bumping into someone else? Apologize to me. I really don't have time. Ian Bai frowned, a little unhappy and impatient, and tried his best to pull back the ribbon of his windbreaker. Who would have thought that although Shang Luoluo was small, his strength was beyond imagination? In the battle with the equally powerful Ian Bai, the ribbon undoubtedly became a victim and broke with a squeak. This is Nami's birthday gift to Ian Bai, a special men's clothing. Asterisk, Ian Bai were cursed. Although Shang Luoluo didn't understand, he felt that it was definitely not a good sentence. Out of dignity, he still clutched the broken ribbon in his hand, pursed his lips, and pointed at Ian Bai's chest with his chin. He felt that he must be beaten. But Ian Bai turned around and continued running forward. After a while, he disappeared, leaving Shang Luoluo standing there with a cold sweat on his face. Shang Luoluo also adjusted his collar, bent down, and started to clean up the broken tableware. While doing so, he looked at the direction where Ian Bai went.